Welcome to Hope's Homemade Kitchen. Today I'm making a creamy chicken wild rice soup. This is a perfect soup for fall, and it's a staple in our house from fall all the way through winter. It's a creamy soup with chicken, wild rice, some vegetables, and some slivered almonds and sherry for some special nutty flavor with that. So let's get started and I'll show you the ingredients. The ingredients for the chicken wild rice soup are wild rice, carrots, onion, butter, flour, slivered almonds, chicken broth, evaporated milk, chicken breasts, and sherry. Now the first thing I'm going to do is wash my wild rice. Now I've measured out 2 cups of dry wild rice. Now this makes a lot and it takes much longer to cook than normal rice. So again, this is a grain. So it takes about 45 minutes to cook, which is much longer than regular rice. So I'm just going to wash it, and then we'll need, for every 1 cup of dry rice, you need 3 cups of water. So I have 2 cups of dry wild rice. So for 2 cups, I'll need to put in 6 cups of water. Now this will make a lot of wild rice. So I'm only going to use 2 cups of cooked wild rice in the recipe, and the rest I'm going to put into quart bags and freeze it because I can use it for other recipes like salads or dressings. And it's very convenient to already have the rice cooked because it does take a while to cook. Okay, the wild rice has come to a boil. I'm going to turn it down to low, put the lid on, and set the timer for 45 minutes. All right, next we're going to prep our vegetables. We need a 1/2 cup of shredded carrots. You could also use a food processor for this if you wanted to. I just didn't want to drag it out for such a small amount. I think 1 carrot was just right. Now, if you're from Minnesota, you're familiar with Lund's and Byerly's grocery stores. Used to be just Byerly's, and then they combined, Lund's and Byerly's combined together. But their chicken wild rice soup, just their wild rice soup, and then the chicken wild rice soup are very popular here. So if you're from Minnesota, you're familiar with this recipe. Next, we only need 1 tablespoon of chopped onion. So I'm just going to do about 1/4 of a small onion here. 1 to 2 tablespoons. Okay, now we need 2 cups of cooked chicken cubes. So I'm just going to slice into bite-sized pieces, and you can cook it any way you like. You can boil the whole chicken breast. You could cook it in the oven. You just want 2 cups of cooked chicken. I'm just going to cook it in the pot that we're going to cook the soup in. I'm going to go ahead and use both of these chicken breasts, and what we don't use, can use for other things like salads. Now this is a cream-based soup, so we'll be using evaporated milk in here, but you could also use 1/2 and 1/2 or just milk if you wanted to. The recipe calls for, if you put chicken in it, instead of 1/2 and 1/2, then use a can of evaporated milk. So that's what we're doing. Okay, we'll take it over to the stove and cook the chicken. So in a large Dutch oven, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. So at this point, our wild rice has about 30 more minutes to go. So while that cooks, it's actually good. You'll have the time to put all of the other soup ingredients together. Okay, and this is just to cook the chicken. They're not going to be highly seasoned, just to get it cooked through and through. Okay, it's been cooking for about 8 minutes. It's getting there. You can cut your chicken chunks in any size you like. These are kind of bite-sized pieces. Okay, the chicken has been cooked all the way through. There's 1 cup. 2 cups of good cooked chicken. I'm going to reserve the rest of this for a salad. Okay, so into the same pot that you cooked your chicken in, I'm putting in 6 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to turn the heat on about medium heat. Then once the butter's melted, we're gonna cook our onions in there. And you'll really just need to saute the onions until they're translucent and tender. So that's 1 to 2 tablespoons of onion. Now this part of the soup really comes together pretty quickly, so once the onions are at a good stage of being cooked, then we're gonna add in our flour and cook the flour. So that's 1/2 cup of flour to 6 tablespoons of butter. Okay, those onions are looking pretty good now. I'm gonna put in my flour. That's 1/2 cup of flour. I'm gonna stir that up. Now you don't need to brown it. You just want the flour to be cooked thoroughly. At this point you want to add in the chicken broth. 2.5 cups of chicken broth. So about 20 ounces. I've got 2 14-ounce cans of chicken broth. I think I'm just going to use those. I know that's a little more broth than the recipe calls for, but I'll just put it all in there. So you want this to come to a boil and thicken up. You scrape the bits from the bottom. It's all flavor. Now we're not putting any salt in this soup because there's already salt in your chicken broth, and your chicken may already have like a salt solution as well. So to keep the salt under control, we're not adding any, but if you taste it and you think it needs salt, go ahead and add some. At this point it's starting to look like a good chicken gravy. And it really has kind of similar ingredients, but we'll be adding some evaporated milk and all of the rest of the soup ingredients here pretty soon. Okay, I'm going to add in the carrots, add in the chicken. I'm going to put this off the burner for a minute. I'm going to toast our slivered almonds. So we're really just toasting these until they're barely starting to turn brown. If you don't like the large slivers in there, you can certainly chop them down a little bit more. I don't mind them, and I find that they break up kind of on their own. So I can see they're starting to turn brown a little bit. Just gives them additional nutty, toasty flavor in there. So that's plenty. They're starting to turn brown. So I'm going to set those aside. So I poured them out into a bowl, and our wild rice is done. Now we're going to continue cooking our soup. So our wild rice, when it's cooked, it kind of pops its shell. So I'm going to add 2 cups of cooked wild rice to the mixture. And it made a lot of wild rice, so I'm going to be saving the rest of that and freezing it. Now all we need to do is add our nuts, our milk, and sherry. I'm going to turn it down to low. Add in 1 can of evaporated milk. Turns a beautiful color, beautiful creamy color. The last step is to add in our sherry, and then we'll add in our slivered almonds. I'm just using a medium dry sherry. Two tablespoons. And that really does give it a unique, good flavor. It's certainly optional, but I always put it in because of its distinct flavor. Really gives it a nice nuttiness. And then I'm just going to add in the nuts. I'm going to bring that to a boil and heat it up, and then we'll be ready to serve it. This is wonderful served with like a crusty bread. Okay, it's really thickening up now. It's a perfect texture. All right, we'll get ready for the taste test. All right, let's give this a taste. It's so creamy looking. I'm seeing the carrots and the chicken, the creamy base, the wild rice. It is comfort in a bowl. If you haven't ever tried chicken wild rice soup, this is the recipe that you need to try. It is delicious, and it'll be in your rotation of soups from now on. The nuttiness in there from the sherry and from the slivered almonds. the creaminess. This is a one-of-a-kind soup. Really, really good. Thank you so much for joining me here on Hope's Homemade Kitchen. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to my channel, hit the bell for notification of more videos, and share with your friends. Comment down below and tell me which soup you like for fall and winter. What's your favorite soup? We'll see you next time.